Let us get ready for the playing of the national anthem. Let us get ready for the playing of the national anthem of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, which will be followed by an opening prayer. Let us get ready for the playing of the national anthem of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, which will be followed by an opening prayer. Let us pray. Praise be to you, Almighty God, creator of the universe and all that is in it. We thank you, O Father, for the opportunity which you are giving us to increase our knowledge. May your divine grace enable us to work hard and use what we learn for the good of our fellow citizens. We pray that you will free us from selfishness, lust, greed, anger, and hatred. Warm our hearts with love, fill our minds with understanding, and strengthen our wills in the face of all difficulties. Help us, O Father, to make our beloved country of Trinidad and Tobago the kind of place you want it to be. A place where human dignity is respected, where equal rights are accorded to all citizens, where hard work is encouraged and rewarded, and where you, O God, reign supreme. Minister of Education, Dr. the Honorable Michael Dowlett, Permanent Secretary Acting, Mrs. Simone Williams, Permanent Secretary Acting, Mr. Kishore Lachman, Chief Education Officer, Dr. Peter Smith, Manager, Teacher Education, Performance and Professional Development Division, Dr. Carla Kronberg, Manager, Student Support Services Division, Dr. Ayinka Nurse Carrington, other directors, managers, and heads of departments at the Ministry of Education, parents and guardians, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Ministry of Education's webinar entitled A Presentation on Special Assessment Arrangements for 2027. To officially open today's session, it is my privilege to introduce Dr. Ayinka Nurse Carrington, Manager, Student Support Services Division here at the Ministry of Education, as she brings her remarks. Dr. Nurse Carrington, we welcome you.
Good evening, parents, guardians, and colleagues. On behalf of the Ministry of Education, I want to welcome you to this crucial information session focusing on the special assessment arrangements for the 2027 local examination cycle. Our primary objective at the Ministry of Education is to ensure that every learner across Trinidad and Tobago is met with fairness, equity, and when showcasing their academic abilities. We understand that students learn, process, and interact with text in diverse ways. Because of this, standard examinations conditions do not always allow every child to demonstrate their true potential. Tonight's webinar is specifically designed to demystify the process of applying for exam accommodations, commonly referred to as concessions. Whether your child requires extra time, structural adjustments to testing environments, or specialized presentation formats like large print or reader assistance, these provisions exist to level the playing field, not to grant an unfair advantage. Over the next hour, our technical team and officers from the Student Support Services Division will guide you through the precise eligibility criteria, the required medical or psychoeducational documentation, and the step-by-step navigation of our online application portal. We recognize that navigating this process can feel overwhelming for a family. This session is our commitment to partnering with you early, ensuring you have the clarity and support needed to advocate effectively for your child's academic journey. Thank you for making the time to join us, and I trust you will find the upcoming presentation both practical and reassuring.
Thank you, Dr. Ayenka Nurse Carrington, for positioning the objectives of today's webinar within the broader objectives of the Ministry of Education and challenging us to think critically about the strategies that will be shared today. Participants, I am Kadisha Alexander, Teacher Education, Performance and Professional Development Specialist here at the Ministry of Education. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar. My role is to support the smooth flow of the session, guide any discussions, and ensure that your questions are addressed. Our goal is to create an informative, engaging, and enriching learning experience. Before we begin, I invite you to take a moment to review the agenda. It will serve as your guide throughout and help you follow along with today's discussions. I'm truly excited to be here with you and look forward to a dynamic and meaningful session. Stay engaged, stay curious. Let us explore this topic together. Let us now go through the online webinar netiquette guidelines, and I will remind you of how to effectively use the features of Facebook Live and Microsoft Teams. Please pay attention to any guidelines shared during the webinar, including how and when to ask questions. Use the comment section to ask relevant questions or to provide feedback. Keep questions clear, concise, and relevant to the topic. Avoid spamming or posting duplicate questions. Please remain respectful in all interactions. Let us maintain a positive and professional environment. To ensure your questions are answered using Facebook Live, locate the comment sections on the Facebook Live. Click the bar where it says Comment As, type your questions clearly and hit Send. Our Q&A moderators will review your question and either respond directly in the comment section or forward it to the presenters. Some participants are also joining us via the Microsoft Teams platform. To use the Q&A feature on Teams, locate the Q&A icon in the toolbar, click it to open the chat panel, type your question clearly and hit Send. Our Q&A moderators will review your question and either respond directly in the chat or forward it to the presenters. Thank you for adhering to these guidelines, which will help us ensure a smooth and productive session. To guide us through this important topic, it is my pleasure to introduce our presenter, Ms. Sherma Swan. Ms. Sherma Swan is a special education teacher 2 assigned to the Ministry of Education's Student Support Services Division. Over the period 2020 to 2025, Ms. Swan was the Inclusive Education Specialist with the Ministry of Education and is now assigned to the Special Assessment Arrangements Secretariat. Ms. Swan, we welcome you.
Pleasant good afternoon, parents, guardians, and colleagues. I wish to stand on the protocols previously observed, and I want to extend yet another warm welcome to our presentation today on special assessment arrangements, what you may know as special concessions for all local examinations. Secondary entrance examination, lower secondary proficiency examination, and the Trinidad and Tobago National Learning Assessment. Our objectives today will focus on understanding what are special assessment arrangements, the types and list of concessions offered, eligibility for special assessment arrangements, application procedures and deadlines, withdrawals and emergencies, appeals, and we will also have a portal walkthrough to help you navigate this process. What are special assessment arrangements? Special assessment arrangements are unique or very specific arrangements made to the standard format of an examination paper and or the conditions under which an examination is conducted. Again, it can focus on the examination paper or the conditions under which the child is sitting the examination. And it is done in order to accommodate the special needs of a student. What are special assessment arrangements? There are 4 areas we will touch on. The first is that it provides advantage. Concessions level the playing field. They do not reduce learning expectations. So the thought that you are getting a special assessment arrangement, so you do not have to do as much work, is not correct. It is authorized by the Ministry of Education. All concessions must be formally approved by the ministry before an examination. And there is a very specific process that the Secretariat and members of the Special Education Unit, as well as the Developmental Assessment and Intervention Unit, they go through in order to ensure that special assessment arrangements are available. It is individually determined based on valid supporting documentation and the identified needs of each applicant. It is very specific to your child's needs. And it is very important to know that all students receiving concessions are accommodated in a specially prepared room. So they are not going to be with their fellow students on that day. They are in a separate room. Let's now look at the types of special assessment arrangements. Presentation accommodations. This speaks to how test materials and directions are presented. Example, the paper may be presented by persons engaging in sign language for a student who is deaf, or a student who is blind may require braille paper or even large print if they are visually impaired. Some may even require a reader. The response to the accommodations. How the students respond to the test. Example, they may use oral responses to a scribe. A scribe is someone who may be asked to write for the student, or that student may also give their responses using Braille. Setting accommodation, the environment in which the testing occurs. And as I mentioned before, this is usually done in a separate room. But you may also have preferential seating, or you may be the only person in the room, the student that is. We also look at scheduling accommodations. These are adjustments to time allowance or test scheduling. And a very popular request is for extended time. But you also have compensatory time or scheduled breaks. I want to just spend a moment here helping you to distinguish between. Extended time, a child may be, based on their diagnosis, afforded additional time to complete their assessment. Compensatory time, if a child needs to take a break or use the washroom, that time is afforded back to the students. It is not lost. Then there are also scheduled breaks. Based on a child's diagnosis, that child may require very specific and timed breaks that they must take. And these are all scheduling accommodations. We also have assistive technology. These are supported accommodations using adaptive tools. Example, the Braille. Students may use a magnifying glass if it helps them to see clearer. You have cubes and cube boards. All of these are very specific to our students who are blind and visually impaired. Let's look at a list of concessions offered. Separate or sole occupancy. I did speak about that just moments ago. Preferential seating, extended time. And you would see two options available here, 25% or 50%. A student receiving 25% is the student who, based on their diagnosis, simply requires some additional time. But let's consider the child who is blind. The child who is blind is having someone read the paper if they are not able to use Braille. And when that person reads the paper to the child now needs to respond to the questions being asked. That requires additional time. And hence the distinction, or one example of the distinction between 25% and 50%. But generally, most extended times are 25%. Close monitoring. And close monitoring can be combined either to be kept on task or for signs of distress. Some students need to be kept on task. They may focus on something other than their paper. And when that happens, it simply requires someone to say, stay focused. Come on, keep writing. But there may be students who have medical issues, and we have to keep a very close eye on them in the event that they may experience some distress. We even have students who require taking medication throughout the exam or at certain periods in the exam. As such, all of these are administered in a separate room. We also have permission to eat and or drink, breaks as required, scheduled breaks, compensatory time, large print, a scribe, and I mentioned this before, someone who is unable to write for themselves, they may have a physical challenge. A concession offered is someone to write for the child. And we also have Braille. We can have parent on site, parent standby. What is the distinction? A parent on site is there because the child may have a very specific medical issue that warrants some immediate support. We can have parents on standby where the issue is not as critical and they may be just in very close proximity to the school. We have interpreter assistants who provide sign language support. There are cube and keyboards, reader of instructions only. So a child can have a reader simply of the instructions. And you can also have a reader for the entire paper. A reader for the entire paper, parents, are usually given to students who are blind. This is not a concession for a child who may be struggling with reading. There are transparent face masks, and this would have come out of our period where we had the COVID-19 pandemic. We used the transparent face mask as well as a transparent portable screen. I'm just sharing everything with you. Let's add the eligibility for special assessment arrangements. Category 1, medical, physical, and sensory impairments. These require a formal medical letter or report. And this must come from a recognized medical institution or qualified specialist. These reports are valid for a maximum of 1 year from the date of the report. I repeat, these reports are valid for a maximum of 1 year from the date of the report. As such, you need to be very mindful when you are applying or getting prepared to apply for special assessment arrangements. You must ensure that if your student or if your child has a medical condition, it is within that 1 year period from the date of the report. It's very important for us to see the date when you have submitted your document. Students without documented or diagnosed disabilities using classroom supports are not automatically eligible for equivalent special assessment arrangements. It means that in the classroom teacher may be saying, all right, let the child finish the test that they are doing. So that child is allowed additional time to finish. But that does not mean that that will be applicable when we are looking at special assessment arrangements. Category 2, students with developmental disorders and psychological or psychiatric conditions. This requires a comprehensive formal psychoeducational or psychiatric evaluation report. Also requires a form, it must be from a qualified professional or organization. Must be valid for a maximum of 3 years from the date of the report. Speech and language reports must be accompanied by a valid psychoeducational evaluation. Students without documented or diagnosed disabilities using classroom supports are not automatically eligible for equivalent special assessment arrangements, as I mentioned previously. Again, the reports are valid for a maximum of 3 years from the date of the report. Let's now look at the application process. As a parent, and this process is initiated by you, the parent. It isn't initiated at the level of the school, at the level of your child's professional. When I say doctor or psychologist, it must begin with you. You must submit the student's birth certificate, a copy of your national ID, proof of address, a recent utility bill, proof of guardianship, if you are the person responsible for the child but not the actual parent. Assessment reports, and that's what we just spoke about, medical or psychoeducational, and any other supporting documents. The school is also required to submit information on behalf of your child to support the application that you would have made. A copy of the student's cumulative record card is submitted, evidence of current student performance, a sample of the student's work, whether it's language arts, mathematics, creative writing. All of these help to make the best determination for the support needed by your child, as well as any other supporting documents. The documentation from your medical or your psychoeducation must be on a letterhead. It must be signed and dated. It must state the professional credentials, and it must describe the nature of the disability. It must also include specific accommodations and recommendations. This is important. Here are some key dates and deadlines that I need you to keep in mind. Submission deadlines must be strictly adhered to. Failure to submit on time will result in the application not being processed. The portal was open on June 1st, 2026. It was open for parents and guardians to submit their online applications with all required supporting documents. The portal closes on July 31st, 2026. That is the deadline for parents or guardians to submit their applications. Applications submitted after the deadline will not be received or processed for the upcoming local examinations. Schools are required to submit, and their deadlines are as follows. It opens for schools, the portal that is open for schools on September 7th, 2026, and it closes on September 18, 2026. Applications submitted after the deadline will not be received or processed. These deadlines are very specific and must be adhered to. At times, parents may wish to withdraw students from the application for special assessment. And I can give you an example. A child may have been granted a special assessment arrangement, and as I indicated, the child must be in a separate room. Some children, upon hearing this, may decide, I do not want to do that. I want to sit with my friends. And as such, there may be a need to withdraw the application. Parents or guardians in conjunction with the principals wishing to withdraw a submitted application may do so in writing formally to the concession secretariat and examination section of the Ministry of Education. We need to be very clear that we are withdrawing from the application for special assessment arrangements and not from the entire exam. Students who are resitting the examination, and we would have really considered this group of students. Parents or guardians of students resitting must submit a new application for special assessment arrangement. So you may have received a concession the year before and you're going again, you are required to submit a new application. Applications previously approved are not automatically transferred to future examinations. There are no assurances that the same concession previously granted will be approved again. All parents or guardians must reapply through the concession portal for the application to be reviewed and processed. We experience, and by we, the Secretariat, experience application parents applying because emergencies occur prior to the exam. Emergency applications may be submitted after the deadline. So our deadline, as I mentioned, is July 31st. But if an emergency occurs, that will be accepted after the deadline, but no more than 6 weeks and no more than 2 weeks before the examination dates. So there is a period, 6 weeks before and 2 weeks. I think I want to make sure that that is clear. So up to 6 weeks before the examination, prior to that, we will not be accepting emergencies. It must fall in the period of 6 weeks before, but no later than 2 weeks prior to the exam. So essentially, you have a 1-month period, 4 weeks, within which you can apply for an emergency. Applications submitted after the emergency deadline will not be entertained for the scheduled examination. What qualifies as emergency situations? Well, we have 5 key points here. Sudden illness. Example, a child may be newly diagnosed with, for example, type 2 diabetes, epileptic seizures, severe or chronic headaches, or they may be experiencing bleeding of some sort. That will qualify as an emergency. A recent injury. A child may have experienced broken limbs or an injury to the eye. Bereavement. It's very unfortunate, but the death of an immediate family member prior to the exam counts as an emergency. Trauma or extreme distress. Example, abuse, fire, or other traumatic events not previously mentioned above. We also have chronic physical illness, Guillain-Barré, Crohn's disease, autoimmune disease, epilepsy, heart conditions. These are all very chronic illnesses that can be qualified as an emergency. When a parent receives the decision, this comes from our examination department, and these decisions, once you receive them, you have the opportunity to appeal. You will receive the notice, and when you receive it, a brief explanation about the reason for the approval or rejection is given. You can submit an appeal in writing. It must be sent to the Chief Education Officer via email only, soft copies only, within 1 week of receiving the notice. The Chief Education Officer then consults with the appeals team, who reviews the case thoroughly. Within 3 weeks, the Chief Education Officer issues a final determination. It is important here to note that when you are appealing, one should try to submit additional information. The decision given was based on the information you submitted. You would be encouraged, if you are appealing, to provide additional information. Appeals must be submitted within 1 week of receiving the notice, and the final determination is given within 3 weeks of receiving the appeal. We will now provide you with a walkthrough of our portal.
Welcome. This video will walk you step by step through how to apply for a special assessment arrangement for your child's local examination. Please watch the full video before you begin so you know exactly what to expect. Before you begin your application, please make sure you have the following documents ready. You will need at least one form of identification for yourself, for example, a national ID or passport, a document showing your proof of address, such as a utility bill or a bank statement, a copy of your child's birth certificate, a document that confirms your child's condition, such as a letter or a report from a doctor or a specialist. You may also need an authorization letter if your name is different from the name on your proof of address, a proof of guardianship document if you are the child's guardian and not the parent. Please note, all documents must be saved as a PDF file and must not exceed 25 megabytes in size. First, let's create your account. Go to www.concessions.moe.gov.tt and click the Login or Apply button. Next, click Register. Enter a valid email address, one that you regularly check as you will receive important updates there. Check your email inbox for a verification email and click the link inside. Log in using the credentials you just used to register. This will bring you to a page where you can create your parent or guardian profile. Fill out all the fields with your personal information, your name, contact number, and email address. Make sure your contact details are accurate, as you may be contacted if the review team needs more information from you. Then, click Create Profile. Your account is now ready. Next, go to the Manage Children page. Click the button that says Register a Child. Enter all of the required information about your child, then click Continue to School Info. Select the child's school. Click Continue to Summary. Review the information and select Register Child. You will now see your child listed on the Manage Children page. You can edit their information at any time by returning to this page. Before you can apply for a concession, you must add at least one diagnosis for your child. From the Manage Children page, click Add a Diagnosis. Fill in the details about your child's condition and save. You can add more than one diagnosis if needed. Now you are ready to apply. On the Manage Children page, click the button that says New Application next to your child's name. Select the examination your child will be sitting. Fill out the application form completely, making sure all relevant check boxes are ticked before moving to the next page. Upload the supporting document that confirms your child's diagnosis. Remember, it must be a PDF and no larger than 25 megabytes. When everything is filled in, click Submit Application. If there are any errors, the system will highlight them at the top of the page. Simply correct them and submit again. Once your application is successfully submitted, you will receive a confirmation email with your application reference number. Please keep this for your records. You can check the status of your application at any time by visiting your dashboard. The dashboard will show you a summary of your account, the current application deadline, and a record of everything you submitted. That's it. You have successfully submitted your application for a special assessment arrangement. If you need further assistance, please read the application guidelines and the procedural guidelines available on the website, or contact the Ministry of Education at concessions.secretariat@moe.gov.tt.
Thank you to our presenter, Ms. Shirma Swan, for your informative and enlightening presentation. Participants, having heard the presentation, the floor is now open to your questions. Please type your questions in the Q&A section of the Microsoft Teams platform or on the comments section of the ministry's Facebook live stream. Our moderators will ensure your questions are addressed in an organized manner. And we already have a host of questions coming in. So for our esteemed panelists, the first question from our parents: will the use of a concession affect my child's choice of school? Will the child have a disadvantage because schools don't want the trouble of having a concession child at their school? One of our panelists will respond.
Thank you very much. Question. No, the concession will not affect your child's choice of school and should not in any way cause any trouble for having a concession. Student to receive that concession at the secondary school. The Ministry of Education strives to ensure that there is inclusive education throughout all of our schools, and as such, all students have the right to an education.
Thank you so very much, Ms. Swan, Special Education Teacher 2 here at the Ministry of Education. The next question. You spoke about some evaluations. Does the ministry provide these evaluations?
Hi, good evening. So we do provide psychoeducational evaluation reports, and that is done through the Developmental Assessment and Intervention Unit, Student Support Services Division. Of course, this is for referred students, so you must start at the school level. Parents, teachers, or even the client can refer to the Student Support Services Division. That referral is processed at the multidisciplinary team, and it is determined whether a psychoeducational evaluation is required. And if it is, the service can be provided. However, psych eds are not done specifically or solely for the purpose of getting a concession. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you so very much, Ms. Patricia Roberts, clinical psychologist with the Student Support Services Division here at the Ministry of Education. Another question. Dysautonomia is a condition that is rare, and some individuals are affected by heat and stress. Would this qualify for a concession? One of our panelists will respond.
This auto is a condition once diagnosed by a medical professional. This application should be submitted. The report that is should be submitted, and yes, if special accommodations are afforded to the student and the student would benefit from these accommodations, it will be considered, provided there is valid documentation.
Thank you very much, Ms. Swan. Can you tell our participants what does the MOE deem as qualified specialists?
So we consider persons who are trained and qualified to do psychoeducational evaluation reports and medical reports. We consider persons with clinical degrees, with masters in education degrees, with school psychology degrees, which are all programs that actually train and qualify persons to provide this service. And similarly, for medical reports, we require persons who are licensed medical practitioners, with a preference for persons who actually have experience and training in pediatrics as they are working with children, and persons who have the relevant tests and tools to screen or evaluate students for the various diagnoses that they are providing.
Thank you so very much, Ms. Roberts. Another question. My son has autism. He was diagnosed at the age of 6. Are you saying that I have to go through the process of re-diagnosis, so it would be 3 years when applying for the concession?
Why we ask for updated information is because we want to get a sense of the child's current level of functioning. While we appreciate that a diagnosis of autism is something that impacts a child lifelong, we don't know how that child is functioning right now. A child diagnosed at 6 and a child sitting SE at 11 years are two very different children, and we need to know how this child is functioning currently. So while it may seem tedious to have the evaluation redone, it is in your child's best interest for us to know what their specific needs are at this time.
Thank you very much. And another question. My daughter has epilepsy. I have applied for a medical report at the hospital. The medical report is not ready. Can I use the receipt that was used to pay for the medical report?
Absolutely. And you in documents, please submit the receipt, and as soon as you receive the updated document, please submit same to the concession secretariat email.
Thank you so much, Ms. Swan. With respect to the medical report, does it have to be local based, or can a US pediatric report suffice?
It does not have to be local based, but it still has to meet the minimum criteria. So it must be by a licensed practitioner, must have a signature, a date, and a stamp, and a clear statement of the condition or the diagnosis that was provided.
Thank you again, Ms. Roberts. Can you please reiterate for our parents, how do you get your child assessed? One of our panelists will respond.
So for psychoeducational evaluations or assessments, you must go through the Student Support Services Division via a Student Support Services referral form. Those referral forms are available at the school from teachers, principals, or SSSD personnel assigned to the school. They are also available at the district offices. So a parent or a teacher can initiate a referral to the Student Support Services Division. That referral is then reviewed by the multidisciplinary team within SSSD, and a determination whether the student requires a psychoeducational evaluation is made. And once it is, that service is provided via the Developmental Assessment and Intervention Unit.
Thank you so much for that response. What ages are concessions given to?
The special assessment arrangements are afforded to all students writing national assessments, and students writing the TTNLA primary who students at standard 1 and standard 3, they qualify for special assessment arrangements. And so if your child is currently in second year and will be going into standard 1 in September, you should apply now. If your child is currently in standard 2 and will be going into standard 3 in September, you should apply now for special assessment arrangements. Similarly, if you are in standard 4 and going into standard 5, this is the period through which you apply. But local assessments do not fall only at the primary level. They also go across into the secondary. So if you have a student who is in Form 1 and will be going into Form 2, and that student would have scored under 50% when they would have written the essay examination, they should apply now as the portal open so that they can receive special assessment arrangements for the lower secondary proficiency examination. And also students who are in standard 2 and will be proceeding to standard 3, Form 2 and proceeding to Form 3, they should also apply during this period so that they can have the opportunity to receive special assessment arrangements for the Trinidad and Tobago National Learning Assessment.
Thank you so very much, Ms. Swan, for that comprehensive response. What about concessions for secondary school CSEC exams? How are these obtained?
Concessions or special assessment arrangement, which is a term you would be very familiar with when going on to the CXC portal, or I should say their website. That's the term that you will see. This is not a local examination, and as such, you should be guided by what is available on the CXC website related to special assessment arrangement. There is a particular form that is submitted through the school that you must complete, and it is sent to CXC, and they will be guided by the information you presented, and they will make the final determination. Again, our local assessments here are TTNLA, primary and secondary, and LSPE.
Thank you so much for that response. Under the diagnosis section, what information is required to be entered under the support offered and benefits section? Is this the school's current accommodation for the child's exam?
Yes, this, yes. Yes, this is the type of that's offered at home as well as in the school. So it is any type of accommodation that is allowed for the child.
Thank you so very much, Ms. Ramdani, Concessions Secretariat here at the Ministry of Education. Thank you for your response. Another question. What specific accommodations are there for a neurodivergent learner, specifically dyslexia?
Right. So providing that sufficient evidence is presented to support a diagnosis. Dyslexia in the DSM is referred to specific learning disorder with impairments in reading. And so for persons with that diagnosis, they can be given a separate room, extended time on the examination, as well as sometimes, depending on how they manage distractions, they can also be offered other concessions. But typically for students with dyslexia, we give them a separate room with extended time.
Thank you so much, Ms. Patricia Roberts. Initially, on June the 1st, 2026, it was posted on Facebook that documentation for concessions can include occupational therapy report, teacher anecdotal report, and testimonials. Are these considered for processing an application once within the 3-year timeframe?
So these documents can supplement your application, meaning that if the student has received support from a speech and language pathologist, an occupational therapist, and there are reports, you can submit those reports in addition to enhance or augment your application. However, the minimum requirement is still preferably a comprehensive psychoeducational evaluation and or a medical report.
Thank you so much, Ms. Roberts. What if your child has been diagnosed by a specialist, but you do not have any documents proving such? How do I go about getting documents with my child's diagnosis?
So any specialist that you work with who provides a
Is 622-2181, extension 1033. Again, that number is 622-2181, extension 1033 or 1053. You can also email concessions.secretariat@moe.gov.tt. We also invite you to still put your questions and concerns in the chat via Facebook or Microsoft Teams if you have any. We do have another question coming in. Can you reiterate the timelines to apply for concessions for SEA 2027? That question again, can you reiterate the timelines to apply for concessions for SEA 2027?
Thank you. The portal is currently open. It's open on the 1st of June and it will remain open until July 31st, 2026.
Thank you so much, Ms. Swan. Another question. Where in the ministry do I go to apply for concessions for a private candidate?
Concessions on online concessions.mo.gov.tt. If you are asking about registration for a private candidate, that is something that is done separate through the examinations division. But if you're applying for a concession, it is done through the same concession link, concessions.gov.tt, through the portal.
Thank you again for that response, Ms. Ramdani. We do have another question. If a child is asthmatic, would that be considered? Again, if a child is asthmatic, would that be considered?
Yes, asthma is recognized as a medical condition, and once the supporting documents is provided, it is considered, and the necessary accommodations will be afforded to the student. As you know, some students may require the use of an inhaler, and so that permission to take medication is also afforded to the student.
Thank you, Ms. Swan. What about a child who is going into Standard 4 in September 2026? Should they apply for a concession?
Yes, if that student is going into oh, my apologies. No, that student is not required to apply for a concession at this time.
Thank you. That question again. Can you tell us about students who have their appointments after the deadline date?
So if you have an appointment to see the medical practitioner or a psychological practitioner, and your appointment date is after the portal is closed, what we encourage you to do is to ask that professional to provide you with a letter of intent indicating that you are seeing this professional, that the evaluation process is on its way, and you can submit that while the portal is open as part of your concession application. So at least we know that you have the intent and the information will be forthcoming. Once you get the report, whether it's a document, a letter, whatever it is from the professional after the evaluation is completed, then you have to email that information to the concession secretariat. And we encourage you to include your reference number, which you would have gotten from a completed application, so that we can identify the application. So you include your reference number, the name of the student, the school, or whether the student is a private candidate, and you attach the document in an email and submit it to the concessions.secretariat@moe.gov.tt email.
Thank you again, Ms. Roberts, and thank you, participants, for sending in all of your questions and your concerns for our panelists. We do have another question. So we have a scenario where the teacher has been giving good reviews on improvement on a student. How would a parent determine if the child needs a concession, and what type of concession for the upcoming national test?
So what we recommend, a good place to start is always by asking the child. So ask the child how they are functioning, how they are managing, how they feel about the upcoming examination, and what do they think they need to do well. And based on that, you can initiate the process of having the child formally evaluated or assessed and applying for the concession of any kind. And when you go through the concession application process, you can see the types of concessions that are available and match it to the needs that are expressed by the child or the strengths and weaknesses that are identified in whatever evaluation is received.
Thank you for that response. Can you please reiterate, would a child writing SEA in 2028 need to sign up now for concession, or is this present application only for 2027?
Present it is only 2027. It is for A 2027, TTNLA Primary 2027, TTNLA Secondary 2027, and LSPE 2027. A new period for 2028 will be open in 2027.
Thank you for that response, Ms. Ramdani. How can a parent go about getting accommodations for their diagnosed child during class time and especially at end of term tests?
A student is diagnosed should have individualized education plan developed for that student. And within the individualized education plan or the IEP, recommendations for specific accommodations should be noted there. You may also find some recommendations once your child has been diagnosed by a psychologist in the actual document that you receive. So all of these are verifiable ways that you can ask your school, your class teacher to provide the necessary accommodations for your student.
Thank you, Ms. Swan. My daughter got her psychoeducational evaluation done on the 13th of June 2025. Does she have to do it over for 2027 SEA, or can this report be used?
So a report completed in 2025 is still valid. Psychoeducational evaluation reports are valid for a period of 3 years. So that report would be valid and you can use that report for your application. One does not need to be redone at this time.
Thank you so much, Ms. Roberts. Thank you so much, participants, for sending in your questions. To bring us closing remarks, please join me in welcoming Mr. Gerard Phillip, local registrar here at the Ministry of Education.
Good evening, everyone. As we conclude this evening's webinar, we would like to sincerely thank each of you for taking the time to join us. Your participation and the thoughtful questions shared throughout this session reflect something that every parent has in common: an unwavering commitment to ensuring that your child is given every opportunity to succeed. This evening was about more than outlining an application process. It was about providing clarity, building confidence, and reaffirming our shared commitment to ensuring that every eligible student has equitable access to the support needed to demonstrate his or her own true abilities. As our presenters emphasized, timely preparation is essential. Obtaining the required professional assessments, collaborating with your child's school, and adhering to the published application timelines will help to ensure that every request is carefully considered and that approved arrangements are in place well before the examination period. Special assessment arrangements are founded on a simple but powerful principle: equity. Every child deserves the opportunity to demonstrate what they know and what they can do under conditions that recognize and accommodate their individual needs. When parents, schools, and the Ministry of Education work together, we create an environment in which students can approach the examinations with confidence, dignity, and the opportunity to achieve their full potential. As parents and guardians, you are your child's first teachers, strongest advocates, and most constant source of encouragement. Your partnership throughout this process is invaluable. By remaining informed, engaging with your child's school, and supporting the application process from the onset, you are helping to create the conditions for your child's success. Allow me to leave you with this thought. Every child has potential. Our collective responsibility is to ensure that no child is prevented from demonstrating that potential because of barriers that understanding, collaboration, and timely support can remove. On behalf of the Student Support Services Division, I thank you for your trust and your continued participation with the Ministry of Education. We wish you and your families every success as you prepare for the 2027 Special Assessment Arrangement process. Thank you once again for joining us this evening. Have a safe and pleasant evening, and we thank you.
Let me take this opportunity to thank Mr. Jared Phillip for those closing remarks. As we near the end of this webinar, we'd love to hear your feedback. Please click the link provided in the chat and in the Facebook Live comment section, or scan the QR code displayed on the screen to complete the evaluation form. Your feedback is extremely valuable and will help guide future education initiatives. A special thank you to our presenter, Ms. Swan, for her expertise and for guiding us through today's topic, a presentation on special assessment arrangements for 2027. Special thanks to all participants in today's discussion. Please note, our next webinar is scheduled for Wednesday, the 1st of July, 2026, entitled Beyond the SEA, as we discuss preparations for the secondary entrance assessment results. You can visit the Ministry of Education's website at moe.gov.tt for more information and updates. And you can also email concessions.secretariat@moe.gov.tt with any questions or concerns. On behalf of the Ministry of Education, thank you for your time, your passion, and your continued dedication to our nation's children. Do have a good evening.